So we just left Indianapolis a few hours ago for the 2025 NFL Scouting Combine, and as we're on the road back to Chat Sports HQ after a great week full of great Niners draft content, we have some breaking news to get to here on the San Francisco 49ers report because the Niners have traded Deebo Samuel to the Washington Commanders for a 5th-round pick. You're watching the 49ers report by Chat Sports. My name is Chase Sr., and as always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. And look, this is why you subscribe to the channel, and this is the power of technology here in 2025, because regardless of where I am or what I'm doing, when there's breaking news, I stop my life to bring you the latest Niners updates, and that's what we're doing right here. So lock us in, hit that sub button as we approach 160,000 subscribers. So, the news of the day that we had a sense was coming: the 49ers trading Deebo Samuel to the Washington Commanders. He teams back up with Adam Peters, who used to serve as the Niners' assistant general manager under John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, and is now the general manager of the Commanders. This is an interesting trade for Washington. They needed a number 2 wide receiver alongside Terry McLaurin, and Deebo Samuel is going to be a good running mate for McLaurin and another really good weapon for Jaden Daniels. And from a team-building standpoint, and with where the Commanders are right now, this deal makes some sense. They have some of the most cap space in the NFL. They had a need at this wide receiver position, and they have the luxury of being aggressive, not just with cap space, not just with having a need, but Jaden Daniels is on his rookie contract, and if the Commanders exercise his 5th-year option, he's now under team control for the next 4 years. And Washington had a really good season. Their rebuild is well ahead of schedule. They figured to be one of the marquee teams in the NFC for the foreseeable future. They just made that surprise run to the NFC Championship game, and so why not pull off an aggressive move like this to get your young quarterback a weapon, to get another really good wide receiver if he's able to bounce back off a career worst year. You have some financial wiggle room to maneuver with, and I think that's the thought process here for Washington. As for the 49ers, let's run through the timeline of events. Deebo Samuel's getting dealt, by the way, right now, and there continue to be reports that the 49ers could trade wide receiver Brandon Ayuk next. I asked John Lynch directly this week in Indianapolis when he was addressing the media about an Ayuk trade, and he said, you know what, at some point, we have to reset the roster, we have to get a little bit younger, we have to reset our financial positioning. We've been one of the more aggressive spending teams in the National Football League over the last several years, and he basically said that our team building strategy moving forward might require us making some of these moves so that we can open up some cap space now and in the future. Now, I don't have internet access right now. I'm about to go to a Starbucks to upload this video. The Niners are going to absorb a little bit of a cap hit and a little bit of a dead money charge by trading away Deebo. This is not going to be official until the new league year. Maybe Washington can absorb some of that money, but the 49ers are freeing up some dollars over the long haul, knowing that they're going to sign Brock Purdy to a contract extension, and that contract extension is going to include some roster bonuses and some guaranteed money, and it's going to be backloaded a little bit, and so there are always ways to massage the cap to a certain degree in which the Niners are going to be able to make this trade of Deebo somewhat manageable. And let's go through the timeline of events, right? Deebo in 2024, there's no other way to put it, had a very disappointing season. And since he signed that contract extension, after his all-pro season in 2021, he's been a disappointment. He's been out of shape at times, including this past year. His numbers haven't been elite like they were in 2021 when he was a legitimate MVP player who put the team on his back after that 3-5 start and was the reason offensively why they made it to the NFC Championship game. And so since signing that contract extension in which the Niners gave him top 10 wide receiver money, you can't chalk it up as anything other than a big disappointment for San Francisco. And it probably got to the point after the season that he had in 2024 where the Niners were like, you know what, we're a little bit fed up and we want to move on. Now, John Lynch did say this week when we asked him about trading Deebo, we're still not in the business of getting rid of good players, but at some point, yeah, you do have to reset things a little bit as far as roster age and the salary cap goes, and so the Niners are going to be able to do that. But John Lynch emphasized time and time again, we have to replenish the cupboard as far as our youth movement, and we have to get a little bit younger. And the Niners are going to be able to check off that box. And John Lynch kept saying that over and over again, and he made it very clear what his thought process is, which is the Niners' thought process. Now, I'm not sure if that has to do with the Niners selling 10% of the team to get some money back, but this is certainly a little bit of a cash flow move. But what did John Lynch say this week? We're not in the business of getting rid of good players, as I said, but we're going to honor Deebo Samuel's trade request. He asked for a fresh start, and we're going to give him that fresh start. And now Deebo gets a fresh start. Is he going to turn back the clock and be that player who he was in 2021? Ladies and gentlemen, it's about to be the 2025 season. That was a long time ago. I don't think that Deebo is that player. But a lot of people also thought that the Niners weren't going to be able to trade Deebo and they weren't going to get any compensation back. I thought the best case scenario was that the Niners were going to be able to get a fourth-round pick, in exchange for Deebo. They get a fifth. And so by trading away Deebo, who at times has been one of the top players in the National Football League, it's kind of a loss for the Niners from a value standpoint as far as what they've been paying him, the dead money charge that they have to probably take on, and they're only getting a fifth-round pick. But the Niners have also hit on a lot of fifth-round picks, and I'm not sure that this move is as much about right now as it is about massaging the cap and figuring things out for the foreseeable future. And in 2024, I can't harp on this enough, Deebo was a disappointing player for this Niners team. He was out of shape. According to some reports, he was 20 pounds overweight. The tackle-breaking numbers weren't there. The explosion numbers weren't there. He wasn't the game breaker that he's been. He wasn't creating separation like he had in years prior. He wasn't able to turn garbage into gold and take some of these bubble screens and end arounds to the house and have those house calls that made him, for a long while, one of the most dynamic players in the entire National Football League. And he just looked like he was slowing down, like he was a declining player. And maybe a change of scenery is going to motivate him. Maybe he's going to be able to shed some weight, and he's going to get into really good shape, and he's going to go to Washington, and he's going to be able to have a bounce-back year. I don't think that he's going to be able to turn back the clocks and be that 2021 All-Pro player that he was. Can he be better than he was in 2024? Not hard to do, because that was legitimately the worst year of his career. And outside of his second season, when he missed a lot of time, that was his 2020 season. This season was awful. I mean, a career low in yards per carry. The touchdown numbers simply weren't there. Yards per catch numbers decreased by a lot. The overall production was on the downslope. And this was without Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk got hurt against the Kansas City Chiefs, not even at the halfway point of the year. The Niners wanted to rely on Deebo to be their number one wideout, and he simply couldn't do it. And I'm not sure if the pneumonia had something to do with him being out of shape, putting some weight back on, because a lot of the chatter in the spring and throughout the summer was that Deebo looked to be in good shape, that he was having a really good training camp. But really from the start of the year all the way until the end, he wasn't able to hit his stride. He wasn't able to find his groove. And he kind of ends his Niners career on a sour note. Not only did he have a bad year, but the body language wasn't good. He demands a trade. The Niners fulfill that trade request. But I don't love how he carried himself on the field with his body language and then with the media either. It was kind of poo-poo, everything's going against me, I don't feel like talking to the media type of mentality from Deebo, when normally he was the opposite. He was a dog. He was a dynamic playmaker. He was a one-of-one guy. He was a guy who you give the ball to, you find a way to get the ball in his hands, and he would be able to make something special happen. And really outside of the Miami Dolphins game, he just wasn't able to do that all throughout the season. And now this 49ers roster has some big-time question marks at the wide receiver spot as we look forward to 2025 when they figure to give Brock Purdy a contract extension, and Brock Purdy isn't going to have the same semblance of weapons that he had in 2023 when he was top 5 in MVP voting and had one of the most efficient seasons that we have witnessed in recent memory. He's going to have to make do, and he's going to have to show everybody that he is worth that investment if the Niners end up paying him, which John Lynch said, by the way, is not a guarantee. And that's some of the pressure that's going to naturally, organically come his way when he's made, if he's made, one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the National Football League. If they get rid of Brandon Ayuk as well, that'll be more money saved down the line, but a bigger reset at that wide receiver spot. You'll have Ricky Pearsall, you'll have Jawan Jennings, Jacob Cowing, and outside of that, major question marks at that wide receiver spot. And of course, before we go on out of here, how are we going to remember Deebo? He gets drafted in the second round out of South Carolina in 2019. Niners made it to the Super Bowl that year. You saw flashes of brilliance from him. Injured a lot in 2020. First team All-Pro in 2021, 2022, and 2023, you saw flashes and stretches of incredible play. There were some iconic, legendary moments from Deebo, but he held out of training camp until he got that deal. And after he got that deal in 2022, it was disappointing. He even said it himself, I'm never going to put that type of play on tape again. But then he put that play on tape in 2024. In 2023, he did have more than 1,000 all-purpose yards on a team that was loaded. McCaffrey had more than 2,000 all-purpose yards. George Kittle had more than 1,000 yards. Brandon Ayuk had a career year with nearly 1,400 yards receiving. And so it was hard for Deebo to have the production that he's had, or at least had in that 2021 season. But even in that 2023 year, he just wasn't that same guy that he was in 2021. On the plus side, Niners able to get a 5th-round pick back for Deebo when it looked as though they were going to outright release him. They have hit on a multitude of 5th-round picks, and hopefully they're going to be able to do that again. On the downside, it's kind of a sour end to Deebo's tenure with San Francisco. He's going to go to a bona fide Super Bowl contender in the Washington Commanders, and it's going to be up to him to turn it around. And if he can't turn it around, maybe he's just cooked. So an instant reaction video on the Deebo Samuel trade to the Commanders as we're on the road somewhere in, where are we, Petey, Missouri? Somewhere in Missouri, Joplin, Missouri. Had to bring you the latest here. We'll, of course, continue to talk about the implications of this right here on the channel, so don't forget to subscribe.